What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. So let's get right to it. The New York Mets were busy this last week. On top of the Bo Bichette sign, they stayed busy. They made a minor move, signed Luis Garcia a year for $1.75 million. It's a fine move. Garcia had a good year last year. Was with three teams last year: the Dodgers, the Nationals, and the Angels. Overall, solid year. 3.42 ERA in 58 games. Last year, 55 in the third innings. He had 48 strikeouts against 26 walks. He struggled with the Dodgers, 5.27 ERA in 28 games, but the other 30 games, he was great. In 10 innings with the Nationals, had a .9 ERA, had an ERA of 2 in 20 games with the Angels. He's going to be 39 years old next year. 603 career games for his career, over 13 years, and a 4.07 ERA, so he's an average middle relief. They had some depth to their bullpen. But the big move was they traded for Milwaukee Brewers ace and all-star Freddie Peralta, also got a young pitcher in Tobias Myers in the deal. They send their number 3 prospect, outfielder, second baseman Jet Williams, and the number 5 prospect, starting pitcher Brandon Sproat, to the Milwaukee Brewers. I think it's a very good trade for the Mets. They desperately needed a frontline starter, and they get that in Freddie Peralta. Last year, had the best year of his career. 33 starts, 2.7 ERA, led the league of 17 wins, 17-6 on the year last year, 176 and two-thirds innings, 204 strikeouts against 66 walks, was an all-star for the second time in his career, and finished 5th in the Cy Young voting. He was absolutely stupendous for his career. 162 career starts, 211 career games. He has a 3.59 career ERA, 742 career record. He is going to be 30 years old. 1 year left on his deal, but only making $8 million this year. They can choose to extend him or not, or let him hit the market and try and re-sign next year, see what they get out of him this year. Also got Tobias Myers, who's a good pitcher. 5 years of control still left. Going to be 27 years old next year. In 2024, made 25 starts at ERA of 3 and 138 innings. Last year was mainly out of the bullpen in 22 games, had an ERA of 3.55. Also made 6 starts. Fun fact, the 3 pitchers the Milwaukee Brewers used when the Mets beat them in Game 3 of the wild card round in 2024 are all now in the Mets. Freddie Peralta started, and the 2 guys they used in relief were Tobias Myers and Devin Williams. Devin Williams, of course, pitched for the Yankees last year. The Mets signed him to a 3-year deal early in the offseason. He will be their closer. Freddie Peralta, I assume, will be their opening day starter, and Tobias Myers will probably come out of their bullpen and will probably make some starts throughout the season. I think it's a good trade for the Mets. They desperately needed an ace, and they get one. They also get another versatile pitcher who's young and close control for several seasons in Tobias Myers. I do think the Brewers get a very good return here. Jet Williams, last year, between AA and AAA, 130 games, hit 261. He had 17 home runs, 2 RBIs. He had 360 on base and stole 34 bases. Did struggle a bit at AAA. 134 at bats, hit only 209 of a 718 OPS, so did have 7 home runs. Still only going to be 22 years old. Kind of a do-it-all player. Mainly a center fielder, but can also play second base. Can kind of play all over. He's a good hitter. He's got power, really fast, 30 stolen base threat. For sure. He stole 45 bases in 2023 when he was 19 years old, between low A, high A, and double A. And he stole 35 last year, I believe. 34, 34 last year between AA and AAA. I assume he'll start the year in AAA, and he'll probably be on the Milwaukee Brewers roster at some point. And Sproat has been in AAA for the majority of the last 2 seasons, was excellent, still young. He came out in September last year, was a bit of a mixed bag, a couple of very good starts, a couple of very bad ones. Mets rotation was depleted. He was counted on to basically be their second or third best starter, despite, just being in the major leagues. That's not a fair thing to ask of a young pitcher like that. I think if a strong camp, he'll be in the Milwaukee Brewers rotation day 1. If not, he'll be up probably by the summertime. Brewers do have a lot of young starting pitching, even with trading away Freddie Peralta and Tobias Myers. But definitely need depth. Your ace is now Brandon Woodruff, who is very injury prone. Quinn Priest is probably one of your best starters now. Chad Patrick is going to have to step into the rotation full-time. A year 2 of Mizorowski. First time he'll be a full-time starting pitcher in the major leagues. And you got guys like Robert Gasser. Now Sprout will be a part of that conversation. Logan Henderson probably comes up at some point for them as well. So you do still have some pretty good starting pitching depth as they usually do. So this is a good move by the Mets to get Freddie Peralta in there. I do think the Brewers get back two very good prospects, two young pieces that I think could help them as soon as this year. Sprout probably very early on. Jet might be a little bit later in the summertime, but I think he'll come up at some point this year as well for the Milwaukee Brewers. If you're the Mets, you have a bunch of arms, just not sure if you have enough firepower. And I'll say Joe Matonga is now one of your top pitching prospects who came up at the very end of last year. Wasn't great, but I'm sure will come up with some more AAA seasoning. Could be a legit option this year for them. And Jet, I just think Carson Benj, I think is a little bit closer to the big leagues than Jet Williams. And I wouldn't be surprised if Benj is on the opening day roster. To be honest, he may be their starting left fielder. Now that they send Luis Robert to play, they trade for Luis Robert to play center field. Cody Bellinger went back to the Yankees. He'll probably start in left field next year. Maybe platoon with Tyrone Taylor, who probably play a lot more left field than center field this year since they already have a Gold Glove center fielder now with trading for Luis Robert. But a couple of moves that the Mets make. Texas Rangers make a big trade. They acquire starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore from the Washington Nationals, sent 5 prospects the other way. Gore, very good young starting pitcher, going to be 27 years old next year. For his career, he was starting to look like he was about to break out. He had 3.9 ERA in 2024 with the Nationals in 32 starts, threw 176 in the third innings, 181 strikeouts. Last year was an all-star in the first half of the year, was brilliant, but was really bad after the all-star break. Overall, was a decent season for him. 30 starts, 4.17 ERA, 159 and 2/3 innings, 185 strikeouts, which was a career high for him. Made his first ever all-star team. He's got a couple years of control still left. Only going to be 27 years old. He'll be in the rotation with Jacob deGrom. Hopefully Nathan Eovaldi is healthy for them. I think it's a big boost to Texas's rotation. He was a superstar prospect in San Diego. They traded him for Juan Soto. He's been relatively solid for the Nationals the last couple of years. Hasn't quite broken out like we all thought he was going to, but I really think this could be his legit breakout. That he kind of started in the beginning of last year. That he kind of fell off. The return for Washington, the main piece of this is third baseman Gavin Feen, who was a 12th overall pick in last year's draft. He goes to Washington. They get shortstop Devin Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald's only going to be 20 years old next year. 139 at-bats last year in low A ball. Hit 302, 6 homers, 20 RBIs, 19 OPS. Is also a good shortstop. They got a starting pitcher back in Alejandro Rosario. He didn't play last year. I think he was hurt. But in 2024, between low A, a high A and double A, he made 18 starts and had 2.75 ERA, or 18 games, 17 starts, 2.75 ERA to 88 and a third. Had 129 strikeouts against 13 walks. So he's got really good stuff. He can stay healthy. He'll be 24 this year. I can see him being a part of Washington's rotation at some point. They have a lot of young starting pitching over there, even without Gore. Jake Irvin being one of them. Got some kids coming up. You also get Abimelec Ortiz in this deal, first baseman. He's going to be 24 years old. Last year, hit 257, 25 homers, 89 RBIs, 835 OPS. He'll probably be in their lineup sooner rather than later for Washington. They also get an outfielder. Yermi Cabrera is only 20, 102 games last year on A-ball, hit 256, 8 homers, 52 RBIs, and 730 OPS. I think this is a really good return for the Washington Nationals. This kid Fiend is really talented, should be really good. In a couple of years, could be there every day, third baseman. Fitzgerald, I think, could be shortstop at the future. We'll see if this means CJ Abrams is potentially expendable, whether it's this year, maybe next year. I think Rosario pitches for them this year, possibly. Ortiz will probably be their first baseman or DH at some point this year. And Cabrera is a little bit more of a thrower, but he has some potential as well. He's only 20 years old and hasn't even gotten to double A yet. So while it's a hefty price to pay if you're Texas, but if Gore reaches his ceiling, a trio of Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Mackenzie Gore healthy is as good as any starting pitcher trio in the league. If they get anything out of Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, that is one of the 5 best rotations in all baseball if they're all healthy and all pitch their full potential. New coaching staff. You still have some pieces offensively. Bullpen should be pretty good, especially if they're adding Brad Keller to close. I assume he'll close for them. Texas could be a threat in the American League West and should definitely be a playoff team if they're healthy. this upcoming season. So before we get into coaching, there was one move that just broke earlier today. Anthony Dominguez is signing a 2-year, $20 million deal with the White Sox to close for them. This is a good move for them. Obviously, you free up a bunch of payroll space by trading Luis Roberts' whole deal to the Mets. It's $22 million that you free up. They spend some of it on Anthony Dominguez. He had a very good year last year in Toronto. 67 games, 3.16 ERA, 62 and 2/3, 79 strikeouts. Going to close for them. He has 40 career saves. For his career, he's close in the past. Very good reliever. Going to be 31 years old next year, in year 8. 3.5 career ERA and over 300 career games for him. Very good reliever. He's had a sub 4 ERA back-to-back seasons. Actually not in 24 because he struggled with the Phillies before he got traded, or after he got traded. But overall, he's been a very good reliever throughout his career. Had a career last year in Toronto. Was a big part of their bullpen last year. Now he heads to the White Sox where he'll get a chance to close. He hasn't really closed full time. He's done it in spurts, really ever. Maybe in his rookie year in 2018 with the Phillies. But this would be a chance for him to close full time for the Chicago White Sox. And if nothing else, maybe he'll be a nice trade chip, especially if he has a year left on his deal for the White Sox to do full out of the race come July. But into the NFL coaching stuff, the Eagles put in 2 interviews for offensive coordinator. They've already interviewed Matt Nagy. I don't understand everyone's infatuation with this guy. He's never been a good offensive coordinator. And maybe when at one point he was staying next to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, like kudos to you. He ruined Patrick Mahomes in the last couple of years. I don't know why, it's bad when the Titans passed on him to be their head coach for Robert Saleh. And Chiefs don't want him back as offensive coordinator. They already wrote Eric Bieniemy. And so the Eagles are bringing him in for an OC interview. He was on that staff at one point, and Andy Reid was there, I think. But I don't know how it'd be any more of an upgrade than Kevin Patullo, as bad as he was. He also requested to interview the Bears offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle. I'm not familiar with him. The Bears offense definitely took some strides this year, but I think a lot of that was on Ben Johnson. I'm not sure how much of a role Declan Doyle played in that offensive jump from Caleb Williams and the Bears. No, I don't think Caleb Williams made that much of a jump, to be honest. But looks like he's going to get an interview to be the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. So those are 2 names they're looking at. The Cowboys have found the defensive coordinator. It is Christian Parker, the Eagles' defensive backs coach. To me, this is kind of an underwhelming hire. Of course, you let go of Matt Eberflus after a year. This is, again, I thought it should have been a bigger name. I mean, you never know. Like I talked about Jeff Halfley yesterday, you never know. But seeing the defensive backs coach from your rival almost seems like Jerry Jones is saying gotcha, or if Brian Schottenheimer is saying gotcha to the Philadelphia Eagles. We stole someone off your staff. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But he's the new defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. We have some more news on other coaching staff that are filling out. The Falcons start to fill out their staff. Of course, they brought in Kevin Stefanski. He's hiring Tommy Rees as offensive coordinator. He brings him with him from Cleveland. He was his OC in Cleveland as well. I never thought Rees was a great offensive coordinator. He was at Alabama before he got the Cleveland job. Wasn't very good. Went to Cleveland. I mean, overall wasn't great. However, that quarterback room and offense was just putrid. He'll have a lot more to work with in Atlanta. They're going to keep Jeff Ulbrich as their defensive coordinator. I think this is a good decision. Defense really came on down the stretch. He's a good defensive coordinator. I thought they did a good job with the Jets. Remember, he called the defensive plays with the Jets when Robert Saleh was there. Of course, was briefly the interim coach, which didn't go so well, but that wasn't really on him. He's a good defensive coordinator. Atlanta brings him back on a 3-year deal, and Bill Callahan will be the offensive line coach. Bill Callahan is a legendary offensive line coach. Stefanski brings him with him from Cleveland as well. I think that'll be a very helpful hire for the Atlanta Falcons. So, Falcons filling out their staff. So, the Vikings have extended Brian Flores. Remember, his contract ended. He's still a head coaching candidate for a 1 or 2 team. If he does not get a head coach job, then he will return to the Vikings as their defensive coordinator. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers hire Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator. I think this is a very good hire for Tampa. Zach Robinson's offense kind of excels in downfield passing. Michael Penix just can't do that. That's just not the right scheme for him. He's probably a lost cause at this point. And Kirk Cousins is 38 years old. The arm isn't what it once was. He's never got a great arm anyway. I think Baker Mayfield will fit very well in Zach Robinson's offense. They got a lot of good downfield threats there. I think it's a really good hire by the Buccaneers. Of course, they look for an LC pretty much every single season, it looks like. You had Dave Canales. He takes a head coach job. Then you bring in Liam Cohen. He takes a head coach job. You promote Josh Grizzard. He didn't do a good enough job. He gets fired. And now you bring in Zach Robinson. I mean, as long as Bowles is there, I don't see them, really doing a whole lot in the playoffs. But I think this is a good hire. The Bills are going to interview two more candidates. Top of the ones I already talked about a couple of days ago: Dable and Anthony Lynn, Joe Brady, and all those guys. They are going to interview Mike McDaniel. Similar to Dable, if Dable doesn't get the Bills head coach job, he will take the Titans offensive coordinator position. McDaniel has already been hired for Chargers offensive coordinator. If he does not get the Bills head coach job, he will still take the Chargers offensive coordinator position. And the Bills are interviewing Philip Rivers. Yes, you read that correctly. Philip Rivers is interviewing for the Bills head coach position. Of course, was an NFL quarterback for a long time. He originally retired in 2020. He shockingly came out of retirement for 3 weeks this season, late in the year for the Indianapolis Colts, after Daniel Jones towards Achilles late in the season. Played their game, did not win all three, but considering he's 44 years old, out of shape, and out of the league for 5 years, I thought he played pretty well. And he's currently a high school football coach in Alabama for his son's team, but he's never had any sort of coach role in the NFL or in college. The only coach to be hired at all, the last one was Jeff Saturday, when the Colts promoted him to interim head coach a couple of years ago. When they fired Frank Reich. Remember that disaster? The only coach that's been a full-time head coach without any experience was Norm Van Brocklin, a former quarterback back in 1961. So that would be just pretty much unheard of if Philip Rivers got this head coach job. Honestly, not as crazy as it seems. He knows football really well. He schematically is very smart. He would just need to hire an elite coaching staff. But not the best candidate out there by far, but I don't even think it's the worst. And the Baltimore Ravens have found a head coach. They have hired Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter as their head coach. He was on their staff from 2017 to 2020. And then he, for a couple of years, was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh as their defensive coordinator. And then Jim brought him with him to the Chargers, where he's been as their defensive coordinator the last 2 seasons. Of course, John's brother. He coached under John Harbaugh. He's a very good defensive coordinator. Not sure if this is what everyone was expecting. I wasn't. I thought it'd be a bigger name. I thought it should have been a bigger name. I know Brian Flores was in connection to that job. Maybe Clint Kubiak. I thought made sense. But I think this is a decent fit. He's been in the building before. He last coached there 6 years ago. Should know some of the players. Knows the front office. Knows the ownership group. Knows the organization. A defensive mind. They're definitely looking for him to be like the next Mike McDonald. Seattle fires Pete Carroll, a defensive guy who was there for a long time, over 10 years. Had a lot of success there, won a lot of games, won a Super Bowl. They let him go, just, needed a change after a disappointing season. And you bring in another, just a younger defensive mind who is, and has been able to come in, and McDonald's been able to come in Seattle and really change the culture there. Has them in the NFC Championship, and they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now in his second year. I think they're hoping Minter can make the same impact, and it makes sense that he could. Defensive mind, younger, almost like McDonald, a younger version of Pete Carroll. They're hoping Minter's a younger version of John Harbaugh, which the similarities are definitely there. So it's a decent hire, but it's also, this is a win now roster. They've come up short year in, year out for a while now with Lamar Jackson. Is he truly qualified to take the next step with this group? I'm not sure, but only time will tell. I think almost everything's a decent hire for the Baltimore Ravens. Jesse Minter, the new head coach, gets a 5-year deal. So to start off at the end here, Fernando Mendoza has officially declared for the NFL draft. He's expected to be number 1 overall pick out of Indiana by the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders will be foolish to pass on him. The Jets fan would love if they did, so the Jets could take him, but I highly doubt that happens. Was Heisman this year for a reason. He was obviously national champion this year for Indiana as their quarterback. Had a phenomenal year. He's officially declared for the draft as expected. Now let's do game picks for the conference championship. which is on Sunday. The first one will be at 3 o'clock on CBS, so what we got to do with Tony Romo. Patriots and the Denver Broncos. I'm on the fence here. I think Jared Stidham is one of the league's better backup quarterbacks. I think he's a capable starter in the league if in the right situation. But he has not thrown the pass in 2 years, so unfortunately, I have to take New England Patriots. Drake May has not played well in this postseason. Denver has an elite defense, but I don't think Stidham will have the sauce late in games like Bo Nix did. I think this Denver defense keeps them in it. Stidham holds his own for most of the game, but I think New England's probably going to pull this game out late in the game. Yeah, 6:30 on Fox, the NFC Championship game. The Rams head to Seattle to take on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks as long as Sam Darnold doesn't revert back to Jet Sam Darnold and takes care of the football. I think Seattle in round three between these two teams will pick up the victory. The Rams have looked beatable, these last few weeks. Since you lost to Seattle, rough loss to the Falcons down the stretch. You just snuck by an 8-win Carolina team. You just snuck by in a freezing cold game against Chicago. Another road game for them. I think they run out of gas here. I think Seattle heads to the Super Bowl for the first time since the brutal loss to the Patriots in 2014. And looks like they'll be playing them again if my predictions are correct. But that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.